like to hand over to one of the industry research collaborators that we have with us today, Nathan Berkley, who's CEO of Muhdo Health, who describe their app platform and what they are doing at the consumer level to measure biological aging. So Nathan is the CEO and James Brown is the Director of Nutrigenomics. So if I put your slide on. Here we go.
Cool. So we're just going to talk a little bit about what we do, and then we're going to be a bit different and show you a video at the end, because we work in a world of moving images and videos, Instagram, Facebook, rather than stills. So what does Muhdo do? We look at the aging process and we try to work out how you can slow down or reverse that process, not from a life extension perspective, but more from a how do we in our 70s and beyond be as active as we were in our 40s and 50s? And we do that through different areas. We do epigenetics and DNA. So we take that information and we overlay that information from your handset around your fitness trackers, your environment, your wellness, and then we give you information back through that handset, how you can improve your life and push that clock that's your biological age. And as we move forward, at the end of this year, we're adding more layers to that data source. So we're going to be doing bloods, microbiome, we're doing face age through AI, and we're also going to be doing cognitive testing to really get an overall picture of you as an individual to actually deliver information back to you that's hyper-personalized to you. So as you can see, we collect a lot of data, and that creates a lot of problems. Why does it create a lot of problems? We've been talking today about the value of data. You can see some astronomical valuations on business in this space because they have this great data source. It helps academia, puts people in the spotlight. But with those huge valuations becomes the £1 million question, or you could say within the longevity industry, the £1 billion question. Why should I give you my data? And what are you going to do with it? And a lot of mistrust can come from that. So we have to be very, very careful. Today, what we've done at Muhdo is we give people back information about them from that rich data source that enriches their life. And we help them move those clocks to make themselves healthier. So we do have to be careful around when we talk about data and its value and what we give back to individual. We're even looking at how can we enrich their lives financially in the future. And that's something we're going to be doing a pilot around in 2023. So I think we have to be very careful. James, do you want to talk a bit more about what we actually do?
Afternoon, everyone. Okay, so I'm sure the vast majority of you have come to the realization that there are a whole variety of different areas that affect the rate at which we age, such as the food we eat each every day, exercise, how well we're sleeping at night, daily stress levels, and environment will all have a profound effect on the aging process. And the aging process is an extremely complex equation and one that's just in its infancy and actually figuring out. But what we have figured out is that it's a multi-layered and multifaceted health data jigsaw puzzle. Now, I appreciate that I'm up against the clock slightly today, and I do tend to waffle on quite a lot. So if you start getting bored, then just let me know. So I'm going to talk about an area that's been at the heart of Muhdo, an area that I've been trying to perfect for the last 17 years or so, and it's the area of nutrition. So I've been a clinical dietitian for the best part of 2 decades, and then I segued into the world of nutritional genomics back in 2010. And for those of you who haven't heard of nutritional genomics before, it's basically a new area of nutritional science that branches off into 2 main areas. So we have nutrigenetics, which looks at your underlying genetic predispositions and traits across a whole variety of different areas, such as your ability to absorb, transport, metabolize, and ultimately utilize the vitamins and minerals and other nutrients in your diet. Then we've got nutrigenomics, which looks at how external stimulus, such as that coming from your diet and other lifestyle factors, go on to affect gene expression, the way your genes function, through a process called epigenetics. So personally, I think everyone knowing their genetic blueprint, I think it acts as a lovely foundation to work off, because historically, working as a clinician doing various diets over the course of the last 20 years, it's been quite difficult to better ascertain what specific vitamins, minerals and other nutrients you specifically need, and are they working at a cellular level. So yeah, we can all pop down to our doctors and get a nice blood test and it will tell you what vitamins and minerals you might be deficient in. But what we crucially need to remember is this is a circulatory test and it's a snapshot in time, and it doesn't indicate whether you're going to need that vitamin, mineral, amino acid for the rest of your life in slightly higher quantities, and again, if you are processing it at a cellular level. Now, from our point of view in relation to the research that we've done over the last 4 to 5 years, with well over 6,000 epigenetic samples, the most important thing that you can introduce into your day-to-day life that's going to have a profound effect on your health and slow the aging process comes from Mother Nature herself with more vitamins and minerals. And it's key that you get these from natural sources, not made somewhere synthetically in a lab. I could go on about synthetic meats, but I'll go on for about an hour and probably bore you all to death. So in relation to diseases, there were a whole host of diseases that were initially thought to be genetic years ago, and they actually turned out to be nutritional deficiencies such as pellagra, scurvy, rickets, and beriberi, to name but a few of them. You've also got a new area of fantastic new anti-aging supplements, which all proclaim to slow the sands of time and turn us all into the proverbial Benjamin Button. But the most important thing from my point of view, and from the data that we've seen, is the most important thing comes from vitamins and minerals. And I'll finish off on two points. So over the course of, the last 20 years, and even more so since I got into genomics and epigenetic testing, the most important thing that we've seen from our research is that those that followed their nutrigenetic recommendations and incorporated the vitamins and minerals into their diet in slightly higher quantities saw a reduction in biological age, and also those that were taking a multivitamin saw a reduction in biological age in comparison to their chronological age by about 4 years or so. And why is this data so important? It's critical for the larger health community to understand, doctors, practitioners, and even more so the general populace, to understand what nutrition is doing internally. And I think probably Hippocrates has got the best quote with relation to food is, let thy food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food.
So just to finish off before we kind of play you the video, I think the most important thing we're saying here is it's not our algorithms, it's not our science, it's not our research, it's actually you as an individual is the most important thing in the longevity jigsaw. And if you don't share your data, if you don't engage with products within the market and find them of any use, the market can't move forward. So I think it's really important that companies, researchers, universities, people like ourselves focus back on the individual and work out how we reward you for using our products and giving us your information. I'm now going to try and play a short video that shows you a bit more of what we do. I might need you, Richard. Thank you.
I need. There we go. So, include the sound. So I'll just put this back on presentation mode, which is here. Okay.
Six, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour.
So, if what I say now seems to you to be very reasonable, then I would fail completely. Only if what I tell you appears absolutely unbelievable, there be any chance of visualizing the future as it really will happen.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Any questions?
Okay, question over here. Use this.
Hi, my name is Dr. Knight. I'm a massive believer in nutritional interventions. I deliver functional medicine in practice for 7-8 years now. I would like to understand how this correlates to other actionable markers like organic acid tests or actual breakdown products of cellular processes that you find in your urine, because there's a rise of nutrigenomics companies that are that have internal algorithms that correspond to biological age or brain age as such, what you're kind of predicting. But you know, how much of it is actionable? There's 4 genes I use in practice: MTHFR, COMT, ApoE. But I'm just wondering, how much other genes do you find are truly actionable for physicians like myself? And obviously health is more than just nutrients. It's all kind of hormonal balance, digestive, absorptive capacity. So yeah, just it's a broad question, but
it's a great question, James. Do you want to answer that?
Kind of big task ahead of you guys. So
Okay, so in relation to, like I mentioned before, genomic testing and DNA testing is quite finite because it's a one-off test. You know what your gene variants are, but the key for what we're doing is the epigenetics and the methylation of the gene and seeing the global methylation. Like you mentioned, MTHFR. What's the global methylation of MTHFR? Is the client or the customer taking B12? Are they taking methylated B12? Are they taking folic acid? Are they taking folate? So there's lots of variables we can look at, and we can actually track the specific methylation points. So that allows you to make it more actionable and something easy to follow. It's not just a one-off test. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Well, I mean, we look at the 850K array, so we're looking at thousands and thousands of markers. The issue that we've got in relation to epigen. I agree. Yeah, sure. Well, it depends what the individual. I mean, like I mentioned before, it depends. There's so many genes there. It depends what the person's goal is, what their diet's like, how well they're sleeping. So we've got a whole array of information. The problem with genetics is if you simplify it too much, no one finds it interesting. And if you actually talk in genetic terms, you lose everyone in the room. So it's quite hard to convey what we do to the end consumer. So we've got to try, and there's quite a fine line trying to simplify what we do. So if we give them too many variables and too many things to track, it's like juggling. They just drop all the balls. So it's quite important to give them slight metrics: biological age, eye age, hearing age, memory age, and then you can see them improving that with regular epigenetic testing, and then changing a few dimensions and metrics in their day-to-day life to see if they're having an impact.
I guess like the thing in between is you're going to consumers, but then what about the doctors?
So you're going to have to use this, otherwise no one can hear you online.
yeah, no, sorry about that. I guess the thing as a doctor, I'm like, okay, how do we get physicians and the healthcare system engaged in this, so it's not just direct to consumer? And I want to know, as a physician, what are the most actionable genes that you're seeing? You're tested, you know, how many 5,000 patients you said? So which genes do you find from your experience are going to be the ones that change? MTHFR, I agree. Apolipoprotein E, COMT, really interesting gene to look at as well for detoxification pathways. What other genes are
I think it's a good question. I think you asked about how do we use it in the clinical space. We're very consumer focused, but we're now in 8 languages, 23 countries. We have 160 partners globally, ranging from Formula One to health clinics to longevity clinics. So we're already using the clinical space. The information we give to a clinician is very different than we give to an individual. As we know with genetics, just because I have a predisposition to something doesn't mean that's necessarily going to happen. So it's very dangerous sometimes that you give that information out. So to the end consumer, we only report out something they can do an actionable intervention behind. To a clinician, you would see a very different platform. Behind that has the research papers, what you need to do, how that can impact someone's life. When someone's sat in front of you, if they're overweight, they smoke, and you saw 4 red flags around their cardiovascular system, you've got to think, well, how do I stop them having a clinical intervention at some point? And that's how you would use genetics, very differently to how we would give it to the end consumer. We wouldn't report on those 4 red flags because we can't see what they look like and who they are and how they live their lifestyle. So we split it into 2 very clear areas: what the consumer gets and what the clinician gets. And our practitioners portal, we've now got over 40 companies using it, from health trust to clinics. And actually our biggest audience is actually in Asia rather than here in Europe.
Thank you. I think we can follow up that question afterwards, because I think he's asking specifically what are the genes. There's a whole long list, as James said, that they use a EPIC 850 array. That's 850,000 methylation sites. So we don't have time to go through each of those right now. But maybe later
just the
on.
most
There is a
actionable
panel, there's an algorithm, and in the literature at the moment, there's a lot of biological aging clocks, and they list all the genes there. Other questions? Sorry.
Hi, how are you measuring brain age?
So I think when you're kind of an early conception company, the very early days, we tried to do everything ourselves and realised you need to partner with people. I know Silvana's talked about that already in her presentation, and some of the other people that have presented today. So we've taken a piece of software out of the USA that's FDA approved. That actually what we've tried to do is reverse engineer it and make it more engaging for the end consumer. So it's doing cognitive skills tests to give somebody an age, to make it fun and engaging. I think it's really important. And unfortunately, the kind of clinical side, it's a 40-minute test. We've worked with them to get that down to a 12-minute test, and lots of games in the meantime to gamify it so people can enjoy it. I think that's really important, because not many people have 40 minutes in their day to do a test. I know we're in the university, but it's difficult. We're time poor these days. Everybody wants everything instantly, so we've had to make it fun and engaging. For that, we bought a product used already by 2.5 million people across the globe.
Maybe I can just very quickly add that Muhdo, our research partner for King's College London, in particular our Institute of Psychiatry, Psychology and Neuroscience, working with actually a colleague of Richard Dobson, that's Dag Arslan, who's developed the Radar AD platform. So watch this space. We're doing the research to identify the critical markers, not only the genes and the methylation, but also the cognitive biomarkers. Svetlana, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, not really a question, more a comment, just building up on the previous conversation about collecting user customer data, incentivizing as well. I just to comment, I say, in my Muhdo app, when I first received the results, I had some of the biomarkers worse than others. So even that by itself made me very competitive, and I said, okay, I want to fix my inflammation score, and my eye age is more than my biological age. So that by itself made me, okay, I need to improve those numbers, and now I'm very eager to see my next test results, just to see if I'm improving. So by the fact that there's an app that I can monitor, some number that I can improve, I think I'm already making an effort to improve that, which I think very interesting for me as a way to engage people.
Yeah, absolutely. This platform, along with many others, generates a wealth of data, a goldmine of data. That's why we need the proper analytics, and we also need to see the value of that data. It's very important for the individual, but where else can we find value for that data? Who are the stakeholders, and so that we can leverage the full use of that data that's been collected, lifestyle data through to the genome level. So very important. Any other questions? If not, thank you very much again, James and Nathan, and watch this space for our research.